3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Hope everybody had a nice extended holiday weekend, at least for those who were able to enjoy it. We did. I cooked, as promised, a lot of meats on the grill.
As one does.
It's worth it.
You described it to me. No, there was. It sounded like you had a good variety.
Yeah, didn't get to all of it. We never made hot dogs. Just didn't. We had enough food, so I made.
Save them for later.
Made. Let's see. Friday night we went out to eat. We went and got a pizza. Saturday. What do we have Saturday? Oh, really good. Like pineapple teriyaki marinated sirloin kebabs. Yep.
Wow.
Solid.
Love a good kebab every now and then.
Sunday,
Skewers.
I did about a 9.5 pound butt. I was on for 10 hours.
It's when you get up early for.
I got up, put it on around, about 10 hours. About 10 hours. And then some smoked drumsticks. Really good. And then yesterday we took, because it's a lot of meat, I took a lot of the leftover barbecue and I added some carne asada seasoning and then put it on the griddle and gave it a nice sear, and then we made fajitas out of that. So it was a good weekend.
Yeah. Resourceful.
Good.
Being resourceful with all that food.
And I made an omelet for myself with some of that meat too.
Oh,
because it was really
nice.
good.
I had an omelet this weekend.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. So what kind of meats did you enjoy?
I enjoyed a lot of Mexican food.
Okay.
So carne asada definitely had a lot of that. Some chicken burritos.
Okay.
A whole lot of that. So we got back in. Actually made it to Cookeville, Tennessee at 8:50 Central Time.
Dude.
I hauled.
Yeah, you did.
I hauled. I made it in record time.
Especially making it through the gorge.
Yeah. In which I hit about a 20-minute traffic jam there.
Oh.
So we
But there's that stretch after you come through the gorge where it feels like I-40 going towards Knoxville is just like a straight line for about 30 miles, and you can
zone out.
You can haul ice.
And haul.
As it were.
Yes. And it's exactly what I did. I hauled a lot of ice all the way through that area. Made 8:50 Central Time. So there's a bunch of us, that I went to high school with. We're in town for a wedding, and there's a Mexican restaurant that we always used to hang out at. So made it just in time.
Dude, you made it. That's impressive.
It was good. And I knew I could. I had every bit of confidence that I could once we left the studio.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad we got you out of here early too.
Yeah, thanks LSU.
So that
for what happened on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. But hey.
Bummer, but
yeah. But then they won that game, and then so that was something.
Yeah, listened to the entire game on the way there. It was great. The Kentucky game, bullpen was fantastic.
Hard to believe, though. I mean, an 11-10 and 12-11 loss to LSU are your two losses in the SEC tournament. But South Carolina advanced to the semifinal for the first time in 7 seasons. They go 3-2 on the week, including wins over top 5 teams, Arkansas and Kentucky. Carolina, of course, has been drawn into the Raleigh Regional, where NC State is the 1, Gamecocks the 2. James Madison will be Carolina's opponent on Friday. They're the 3. And Bryant. Is it Bryant College or Bryant University? University? Okay. Kale's here.
I'll take Kale's word for it.
All right.
There is a Bryan College in Dayton, Tennessee.
Yeah, this is Bryant, and apparently they're in Rhode Island, which is not an island, but nevertheless. I don't know much about them, but that's who NC State gets on Friday night, and then we'll see what happens. We talked to Coach Kingston today. We'll have some sound from him coming up in just a little bit, and some of the things that Mark had to say in yesterday's press conference after the Field of 64 announcement. So we'll get into that for you. The voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott, will be with us coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for his regular Tuesday visit. I will put an over-under on 1.5. 1.5. That I say it's Monday at some point during the show.
I think I'm hitting that over. I'm nailing it.
Yeah. I hope not.
On a Monday edition of the postgame show. Now, what happens more? Here's another fun prop bet.
Yeah.
Do you call today Monday more than you call this show the halftime show?
Today?
Yes.
Today, the likelihood is greater that I say it's Monday than I say it's the halftime show.
All right. Kale, you heard it. If you hear him say one or the other,
That's
we're
what
gonna,
I
we're going to
think.
mark this.
That's what I think. I'm not absolutely certain of that at this point. I did earlier tell one of my daughters that I made the Boston butt on Saturday because I was thinking yesterday was Sunday and today was Monday.
They'll mess up your week like that.
So I did actually make it on Sunday. So there you go. So we'll jump in here. Carolina, listen, I like this draw. I'm just going to come right out. And Bill Gunner and I saw Coach Kingston earlier today. We were doing our cocktail hour television program for Gamecocks Plus. Shameless plug. Please check it out. It's a fun time. You won't, in my opinion, Elijah. Now, look, if you get to Omaha, it's a different story. But you won't run through a more difficult gauntlet than you went through last week playing 5 games in 5 days. Now, does that battle harden you or does it completely exhaust you? I don't know which, or a little bit of both. But you've got time to rest up, and they are having some practices over at Founders Park. But from what I understand, they're going to be, light. They're going to work on, yes, fans. I am told firsthand they will be working on some defensive fundamentals. They understand that there were a couple of defensive plays that really let them down last week. They're not immune to what happened.
Hard to shy away from that.
No, it is. And Coach last night and a little bit today, but he said in so many words, "Hey, we get it, but I can't sit here right now and beat them up. This is who you are." I think he was right. They fielded 979 as a team in conference play. It's pretty good. It's not fantastic, but you know what? At this level, that's pretty good. You'll take it. You'll take anything above 975.
Yeah, that's almost 98%.
Yeah, I mean that's good. It's not dazzling defense, but it's solid defense. It let them down last week. There's no doubt. And now with, potential injury to Casas being what it is, that further shifts what it is that you might be able to do defensively. It takes a big bat out of the lineup as well, too. So you've got to think about that. So, when Tippett went out, it was different, right?
Yep.
Now, and Tippett's bat was coming around. And look, Will's hit a home run or two since he's come back. And so, I mean.
Hit one in this tournament.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, a lot of home runs in this tournament. But so I don't know what that's going to look like. Anyway, they're going to practice. They're going to play Friday at 2, so they'll be ready for the heat and those kind of things. And this is South Carolina baseball, so they're used to that. But I like this draw. Now, I'm not telling you, hey, South Carolina's going to go to Raleigh and win. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I like this draw. Let's put it this way. And I don't know how you feel about it. Like, East Carolina gets Wake Forest.
That sucks for them. That's a tough draw.
North Carolina gets LSU, who, again, South Carolina went toe-to-toe with, right? So, I mean, how big of a difference is it for North Carolina to have gotten LSU relative to South Carolina?
But it's getting a red-hot SEC team.
Yeah. Clemson gets Vanderbilt, right? Mm-hmm. So, and Coastal?
And Coastal. Yep.
And by the way, there's some stuff about Coastal. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We got time for that one today.
Yeah. We might have to talk about some of the things Eric Bakich had to say, too, by the way.
I was going to say, he may or may not have poked the bear a little bit on that one.
By the way, I want to tip my cap to our buddy Hale McGranahan. Hale put out a tweet about, from the Chappelle Show, when Keeping It Real goes wrong. And he had to explain to a Twitter user what that meant, and then it's like, man, that's poor Hale. That was funny.
Yes.
And then he went back and he actually got the guy the clip, but the guy was like, I don't understand what this means, and it's like he was just saying, it's like,
if
Hale
you have
was
to
like,
explain the skit.
Yeah, Hale was like, dude, you ever heard of the Chappelle Show? It's something funny here. But way to go, Hale. Hale did a nice job on that. If you haven't seen or heard what Eric Bakich had to say, it's worth your time, and we'll try to get it.
We have it.
We have it good. We'll get that for you in just a bit. I've not done a deep dive yet into James Madison or NC State at this point. NC State was here last year. We know what conference NC State's coming out of. We know that allows them to have the kind of season they had and be able to host Coach Avent has had his team, at the College World Series a couple of times. It's a fantastic baseball program. So, and I like the way Mark described it, yesterday, Elijah, when he said it's almost like a home-and-home regional. They were here last year, and we go to their place this year, and we'll see what happens. James Madison played 4 games with Arkansas. They won one of them. They lost both games. They played with Maryland, and they were supposed to play Virginia Tech twice. They only played them once. One of them was rained out and couldn't be remade, and they won that one. So they were 2-5 against Power 5 competition this season. Couple of crossover opponents. Who'd we say? Georgia Southern, Georgia State.
Yep.
They didn't play Upstate. They had that one also got rained out, I think.
Scheduled to play Upstate, but did not play Upstate.
So, they score a lot of runs. Carolina scores a lot of runs. Carolina's team ERA is over 5. JMU's is over 6. I expect Friday, Elijah, the game starts a little bit after 2. You and I will be prepared to do something, and I got a hunch that it's going to be a lot like what we were prepared to do last week, where we might come in and go, hey, y'all.
Hi, bye.
Yeah. I got a hunch.
One of those.
I got a hunch that game goes like 3.5 hours, man. I could be dead wrong. Maybe it's a 2-1. But I like this draw for South Carolina. I think when you look around at some of the places they could have been sent, it's not even so much about, I like this draw. I don't know how else to put it. If I try to delve too deeply and say, oh, boy, glad you avoided that one, I don't think that Mark's team wanted to avoid anything. Mm-hmm. They knew they were going to be sent somewhere. And, again, you and I were ready for look, if Carolina was in Clemson instead of Andy, and it's Clemson, South Carolina, and Coastal in the same regional.
Would have loved that.
Yeah, that'd have been brilliant.
The South Carolina regional.
Yeah, that'd have been fantastic. I got zero issue with that. It'd have been a lot of fun to go see what happens. I mean, Carolina played Clemson well, and that was a long time ago. What's different now? I'd like to know that, Maybe you'll see them somewhere down the line. Maybe you won't.
Clemson would have to do something they haven't done since 2010, though.
You beat North Carolina when you played them, so nothing to be concerned about there. You won the Greenville Regional the last time you were in it, 6-7 years ago. There's really nothing that's like Carolina's going to look at and go, oh, whew, man, glad we didn't have to go there, But of all the ones in the area that you were going to go to, this one feels like now, especially with the teams that were drawn in with you, like one that you can win. Am I predicting that? No, I am not. But I like their opportunity.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a very winnable region. And when you do look out of the non-SEC hosting regionals, there's not a ton where you would have been, I guess, completely petrified to play in. With all due respect to Arizona, if they were sent out to Tucson, I wouldn't have been trembling for them to have to play Arizona. Arizona's been good, but they surged a little late to get that. Tallahassee.
Well, they won their tournament, right? I think they won the last Pac-12 tournament.
Yeah, the last one. Rest in peace.
Yeah. R.I.P. Pac-12.
That's right. The Tallahassee Regional. You can look at that and be like, okay, well, historically, Florida State's really good. Not what they've used to be. Had a solid season this year. That one I probably wouldn't have. Would rather be in Raleigh than Tallahassee. I would take being in Stillwater than Raleigh, but at the same time, there's just not a lot here where you're outside of the SEC schools where you'd not want to see South Carolina in.
Right.
So really, it's a win. You're closer to home. You're going to have a good fan showing. I expect there to be a good fan showing.
I think there will be.
Especially after the way you won 3 games in Hoover.
Yeah.
And you didn't expect to win anything in Hoover.
No, I mean, I feel like most people around here expected South Carolina to have been beaten by Alabama in the play-in round and then cross their fingers and hope for the best. And instead, you elevated yourself back into a 2 seed and had a nice opportunity, had a nice opportunity. So, anyway, all right. Sound from Coach Kingston coming up. Again, Derek Scott will be with us in a bit. We'll get into the Braves. We'll get into Bill Walton. There's a lot to do. SEC meetings going on in Destin. So, plenty to discuss. But sound from Coach Kingston on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show. If you're a homeowner looking to make improvements or you just want to consolidate some high-interest debt, then a home equity line of credit could be a great option for you, especially this time of the year. And Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union is ready to help make that happen, and they'll do it with lower rates and fewer fees, lower closing costs, lower application fees. Unlock your home's equity and then access that line of credit over a 10-year draw period that'll assist you and your family with your needs and goals. As the kids get a little older, you want to modernize the kitchen, build them a second bathroom, play area, maybe a place for you to get away a little bit. Apply today at palmettocitizens.org, or you can visit any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are members of Palmetto Citizens. We enjoy working with the folks at the Millwood branch, whichever one you choose. Great people to work with. They've been doing it for nearly 100 years. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. Twenty minutes after 3 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. All right, yes. Got through both of them right there.
2 for 2.
Thank you. Well,
because now it's at top of mind.
Yeah.
When you get too relaxed and too comfortable,
that's when it happens. Yeah, that's when it happens. If I planned this out right, I can just let a lot of sound that we have from others carry the day, which gives me less time to talk and fewer opportunities to screw it up.
That's what analytics would tell you.
So there's that. Let's start with cut number 5 on today's list, please, Elijah. This is Mark Kingston, about a minute long here, assessing his team's run last week in Hoover.
We loved it. I mean, again, it's the greatest conference in America. It's the greatest players in America. It's the greatest coaches in America. I'll say it's the greatest umpires in America. It's the best of everything. It's the best. Look, this stadium and what this town does for this week is incredible. I haven't had anything that reminds me of the Omaha experiences that I've had, anything more than what is put on this week. It's everything that everybody that's in baseball wants to be a part of, and it's tremendous. And it was tremendous for me to watch our team. It's hard to think that you can have significant growth on a team this late in the season, but we did. We did because there were so many different challenging situations that our kids will be able to learn from. We were able to put so many young guys in situations through thick and thin, through good and bad. They're going to be better because of it. And it's the biggest stage they'll play on until they get to the big leagues. This is a very similar feel to Omaha, especially when you're the team playing LSU like that. That was hostile territory out there, and our kids will learn from it. And our kids aren't perfect. Nobody's team is perfect. These are 18 to 22, 23-year-olds. They're going to make mistakes. It's our job to help get them through it, learn the lesson, and be better because of it. So it's a tremendous week. Hard to think that it can get better until you get to Omaha.
So there you go. And we said that a little bit earlier. You know, you look at it, Elijah, and running that kind of gauntlet, you won't see anything like that unless you make it to Omaha, where you've got to play a bunch of games against some great teams over the course of that week. You know, this weekend, the format is different. There's only 4 schools there. You go to the Super, and while the Super can be very difficult against someone else, that's it. You see the point I'm making? Like, you won't play more than 4 games this weekend. You won't play more than 3 games at a Super Regional. That was, and I think Carolina surprised a lot of people. I wonder if they surprised themselves, even ethically, if, in other words, like silently between their own ears. Did they surprise themselves last week?
Wake up a little bit. I think it's a lot of that waking up a little bit, because like, what did we talk about before they went to Hoover, right? Like, they seemed like they were zapped of any mojo, swagger, whatever word you want to use to describe, I guess, that inner confidence you have. They look like they're completely void of that in the series against Knoxville as soon as Tennessee started crushing the ball a little bit. And that seemed problematic, right? Because anybody you play in Hoover is going to crush the ball. There's a lot of really good bats that are on any given team in the Southeastern Conference. So, things that we talked about in terms of just getting confidence back, like, go back and look at highlights, look at you doing well and saying, look, those kids are in the room right now. Like, these successful plays, they're in the room right now. And sometimes you got to be able to just do it again for a game. And maybe that Alabama game was the spark that got you out of a funk, said this is our blueprint to winning baseball games. Let's put runs up on the board. Let's come up with big outs when we need to and be able to stack some wins. And look, and you were even a couple of those away from winning against LSU.
Yeah.
LSU is the lowest seed you played in this tournament. That's the one you got beat by twice. You played much higher seeds on the way to that semifinal game, and you beat them. Like, you beat, RPI #1 Kentucky going into the week. You beat an Arkansas team that took 2 of 3 from you here in Columbia. You did some things that you even haven't done all year, and I think that's a pretty significant leapfrog to be able to get into the most important stretch of the season, the stretch of the season that's going to define your season. So I think there was a little bit of showing yourself that you can win these games. You can get back at it because you've done it before.
And on that note, here's more from Coach about what he, the staff, the guys all brought back from Hoover looking to the national tournament.
Takeaways, couldn't be prouder of my guys. Couldn't be prouder of how they handle. I struggle to use the word adversity. Adversity is not, you don't get adversity on a baseball field unless you get injured. Adversity is health problems. Adversity is those types of things. We had failure to deal with this week, but every team has. And I'm just so proud of our guys that they are trying to make sure that they learn from the failures, that they handle them properly, and they're better because of them. But my takeaway is that I'm glad the country got to see what we're all about, what we're capable of, the good and the bad. We're not a perfect team. We have some warts that we need to try to cover up at times, but we know how to win, and we can beat anybody. I mean, we've shown that we can beat anybody. So back to the question about the league, too, I'll just go ahead and say, in my opinion, every team in our league that gets to the regionals will have a chance to go to Omaha. I don't think there's any question about that. So it's going to be a matter of who gets good draws, who's in a spot where they're playing hot against teams that maybe are not quite as hot. But every team in our league that gets to a regional will have a chance to go to Omaha.
For what it's worth, by the way the draw is structured, you could technically get 8 schools from the Southeastern Conference to be the 8 participants at the College World Series. It's certainly very unlikely.
At that point, should they just play it in Hoover? Just kidding. You always play it in Omaha. Beautiful stadium. Tradition.
But I read that this morning, and so I went and looked. I was like, dang, really? I mean, not that I didn't believe the person that wrote the article. I just wanted to kind of see it for myself in bracket form, and I was like, oh.
Had to double check.
Yeah, but a couple of them, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, not everybody got good draws. Let's just say that.
You heard Mark in there mentioned, some warts to cover up. Obviously, defensive miscues, both physical errors and mental mistakes, did cost South Carolina in their games against LSU. Heck, they got away with them in some other games. Mm-hmm. They did. They did not have a great defensive week at all. Here's Mark on trying to get that corrected in time.
We fielded 979 in 30 conference games this year. It was not a problem all year. Why it was a problem this week on this field, I don't know. We got to dig into it. Got to talk to our players, communicate a little bit, ask them as we get to a regional, is there anything we can do to help get you more ready? I don't think there is, because our guys prepare very well. Our guys are good. We fielded 979. That's pretty damn good all year. And for whatever reason, that type of defense didn't show up this week. And we'll do everything we can to get it better.
Yeah, I don't have explanations for it either. Again, a lot of them I think were mental. There was a couple that were sort of a little bit of both. Like the Costas one at first, where the ball gets through, and you just got to knock that thing down. You got to know in advance. You got to knock that thing. That can't get past you.
Nope.
You might not field it cleanly, but it can't get past you. Ellis just seemed to he got caught in no man's land, and you've got to know the situation there. And, he had come on late. Maybe he was just a little nervous.
Inexperience, I think, fueled. See, I think he only got charged with one error.
Right.
Which.
Well, you get charged with the physical, but not knowing the situation is what led to.
And poor guy, I felt bad for him because he committed about 3.
Yeah.
1 and 2 on one play where the ball just completely eats him up. And hard hit ball.
Yeah.
That thing was put on a rope, but it was right to him. And that ball goes in the outfield, and he stops chasing it for a little bit. And then Dylan Brewer stops chasing it for a little bit. And then Brewer has to come back and chase the ball back again because there was some indecision between the two of them. We can half an error between those two fellas.
Right.
Somebody's got, you can't have both guys staring at the ball as it's rolling.
Yeah.
That's how the guy goes from first to second, and that's eventually how we end up getting that fateful ninth inning that we had a few days ago. But that was a good mix of inexperience and being in just a really high pressure packed moment where you just didn't get the best out of a player you might expect more from.
We'll have more from Coach Kingston a little bit later on in the program. And again, Derek Scott going to join us. We'll also have more of an overview of the entire tournament throughout the day, so plenty more to get to. But Mark just mentioned in there, adversity is typically something on a baseball field that stems from injury. Well, there's a team that plays about 3 hours west of us that is now going through it. We'll discuss as the postgame show continues. Been talking some Carolina baseball as the NCAA tournament field of 64 was announced in totality yesterday afternoon. We knew the host sites on Sunday night. Gamecocks in Raleigh. Game 1 will be Friday at 2 o'clock against James Madison. We'll have it for you here. And again, we've already predicted some level of actual post-game show beyond the Gamecock post-game show, this post-game show.
The real post-game show.
But Elijah and I think that it will be a lot like the game last week against Arkansas or Alabama.
The one where we had a segment.
Yeah. The Alabama one we were on for like 10 and a half minutes.
Yeah, 11 minutes. The video stream ended up being 11 minutes long.
Yeah.
So we had almost a full segment.
Yeah.
But not even a full segment.
Not even a full segment. Not even. We'll get back around to some Gamecock baseball and some of the national stuff for you in just a little bit. By now, most of you that are Braves fans, even if you're not, have heard that Ronald Acuna has now torn the ACL in his left knee. 3 years ago, he tore the ACL in his right knee down in Miami going for a play. This time it was going into second base at home. No, actually, it wasn't at home. That was in Pittsburgh. I don't know what this. Look, I'm a fan, so I'll let you steer me a little bit here.
Okay, I can play sports therapist.
I don't know if it's as difficult for this particular iteration of the Braves to absorb as that one. Mm-hmm. What I do remember is that Alex Anthopoulos immediately went out and got Jock Peterson. And then a couple of weeks later, he got Rosario and he got Soler. And all three of those guys were vital cogs in the machine that won the World Series. It is my belief, based on that primarily, that Anthopoulos will look to make a deal again. That one happened in July. This is still May, even though there's just a few days left in May. Going to get somebody now, Elijah, is going to be really expensive in terms of the trade market. And I don't know what that looks like right now. Do the Braves have an answer somewhere? Is there somebody on the bench? Is there somebody in the minors? These are things that are being discussed at this point. But I do not believe, and I don't know how you feel, I do not believe that the Braves will look at this and go, that the team is not built that way. And again, I know I'm a fan, so that's why I want to throw see if you want to push back at all. The Braves are built on selling that ballpark out, but the Braves are built to win. Mm-hmm. And
certainly,
again, I'll say it for the third time. I'm a subjective fan, but I'm objective enough to know in what I do and how I follow to know that the Braves are a really good baseball team. They're not having a fantastic year this season, but they're still a really good baseball team.
Yeah.
I don't see them throwing in any kind of towel.
And while they're still a really good baseball team right now, Ronald Acuna has not been having a Ronald Acuna-esque season. I mean, this is a guy, last year's MVP.
Unanimous,
hitting .250, which is above average, but it's not Ronald Acuna average, right? An OPS of .716.
Which is brutal.
Which, especially, that's average. I mean, that hovers league average. And if there's anything Ronald Acuna hasn't been in his career, it's league average. And you look at this Braves roster right now, I feel like there is a seamless fit. You might have to have Ozuna play in the field a little bit. Which isn't the best or the most ideal outfield. You're going to have to insert Adam Duvall into the lineup, who's hit pretty well for a guy who's 35.
Duvall's going to be asked to do a lot.
You're going to see a lot of Adam Duvall, like it's 2015 Cincinnati, right? Like you're going to see a lot of Adam Duvall. And look, when it gets closer to the trade deadline, when teams might be a little more willing or I guess desperate to deal anything, maybe you can get a replacement bat for Acuna in the lineup. But for right now, I think you can still piece it together to where you're going to be competitive. The Phillies are playing out of their mind right now, and it feels like they may never lose a game again. However, they're going to eventually. They can't play like this all season long. And if you look at that Braves example that you used when Acuna got hurt a couple of years ago, they went ahead, picked up some dudes, won a World Series, started playing their best baseball. There's a lot to be played. I don't even think we're at a third of the way through the season yet. There's still a lot of baseball to be played. You're still in really good shape because you still got, power hitters all throughout that lineup. Imagine if you got even the full potential of Austin Riley or 75% potential of Austin Riley. He has not hit to his potential at all this season.
Well, he's got an OPS under 800.
Yeah, he's got under 700. His OPS plus is at 95, which is well below league average, right? Like he's hitting at a below average level right
Matt
now.
Olson's been struggling again, and he's starting to break out of it a little bit. Ozzy's doing all right. Kelnick is working his way through coming into this lineup.
Only having 2 players above 800 OPS.
Yeah.
And that's Travis d'Arnaud and Marcel Ozuna,
Yeah.
the way you drew it up, right? But
and
they're not going to do
Ozuna-
that all year, though. That's the crazy thing. They're not going to do that all year. Like Albies and Arcia and Riley.
They'll come around.
They'll come around. You still have that to look forward to, and you're still playing this well.
Yeah. I've said before, listen,
30 and 21.
Ozuna has a lot of detractors for obvious reasons away from baseball.
Naturally, all very fair.
Yeah, absolutely are. He has detractors inside the sport too. He has been hitting incredibly well. So I say this with a little tongue in cheek, but like him in the outfield, I think I might have told you this before. I'm not sure I've ever said this on the air before. But if you took like a Steinway grand piano and like propped it up so that the thing is open and just stuck it in left field,
It might catch more balls.
yeah.
With the opening and the piano, right? Yeah.
Like
it might actually
eventually
catch more.
someone, is just going to hit a ball into the piano.
Right. Yeah. Naturally, you look at anybody's spray chart. Naturally, one will just fall there. Yeah.
You put it in a place where you can really look at that spray chart and go, well, okay. And you think of it, it's not that big. Like in terms of an outfield, right? A grand piano is a big musical instrument. But relative to a major league outfield or any baseball outfield, it's not all that big. But that's Ozuna as an outfield.
He's basically playing without a glove out there.
Yeah, I mean
is
he's
what
just,
you're saying.
Yeah, defense, like I don't even know if he could play first, dude.
So like maybe an outfield of Kelenic, Harris, and Duvall. Still wouldn't feel great about it.
No, and because Kelnick is supposed to play left, and Duvall plays left. Being a right fielder is a different, so what that looks like long term, I'm not sure yet.
They're big boys, though. I mean,
and the Braves last night.
they play the other side of the field, buddy. You better learn.
Yeah.
Ronald Acuna ain't walking through that door. You better learn, pal.
No, and that's what worries me. Last night it was Duvall, and he's not going to cover a lot of ground over there.
No.
And that's what concerns me.
35 years old.
Yeah, and not listen, when he was 25, he wasn't what I would call fleet of foot.
No.
In terms of covering ground.
He's like maybe a larger piano, the grandest of pianos.
Yeah, he can get you a little bit done defensively and left. But not he's not the long-term
Not a
answer.
terrible arm, but
No, but not a great one either. And that's the thing about Acuna. I mean, listen, right fielders are right fielders. If some people might think, like when you're little kids, corner outfield is sort of the same thing. Once you get to the bigs, or at least to a higher level of baseball, the right fielder, in my opinion, okay, is typically maybe not a much better defender than your left fielder, but is seen as a better defender. And typically, a lot of it has to do with the arm. Yeah. But getting to balls in that corner so that you can try to prevent guys from coming around. Left field, listen, I love like Ryan Klesko, who played for the Braves back in the 90s.
You're saying that's where they're hiding people.
Yeah. I am saying that.
Yeah.
In a lot of instances, you stick a guy in left because that's where he can play. Like, you've got to have him. And now that you can have DHs, again, think if this was the old National League, then Marcell Ozuna is playing
to play in the field.
No. He's playing in the American League. That's what I'm saying.
Play him.
And if it's old school baseball,
The Pittsburgh Pirates exist. He'd be in the field.
Yeah, I mean,
somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, nothing imminent in terms of trades or anything like that. But you could tell last night the Braves were in a funk. They scored a few late, but I think they all absorbed this news poorly. They'll come around. Pitching's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, they lost Strider already too. So you've dealt with one blow. Now you've got to be resolute.
Chris Sale just taking some sips from the fountain of youth
Yeah,
and rediscovering
he looks
himself.
good. Freed looks good.
We've kept the scissors out of his hands.
You know, yeah, for now. And the Braves don't have any goofy uniforms to worry about anyway.
Unless he doesn't like the throwbacks, which everyone loves universally.
So we'll keep you updated on that. But, you know, pulling for my Atlanta Braves to get something done.
I'm thinking about you.
Come back on the other side. Back to college baseball. Eric Bakich said, what? We'll let you hear it and you decide how you interpret it. Be right back. Welcome back to the postgame show on this Tuesday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Cale Wilson hanging out with us here today. Derek Scott, the voice of the Gamecocks, will join us coming up at 4:30. We'll have more sound from Coach Kingston. Bill Gunner and I getting a chance to speak with Coach a little bit earlier today for our cocktail hour show on Gamecocks Plus. Check it out. Bill was very excited to get to talk about his boat for a minute.
Glad he had that opportunity.
Yeah.
It's good. Give him a platform.
Yeah. Yeah. Because how many minutes per day does Bill devote to the boat on the early game? Do we have that documented?
Ooh, I don't know. But when you start keeping track, though, did they give him a segment?
I don't
Give him
know.
a Bill's boat segment, or just record a segment from Bill's boat
Could
and then
Preston
just play it in the show the next day.
hit Bill every time he mentioned the boat? Would that be wrong?
I think we might get the YouTube viewership up a little bit. I think a lot of people would start tuning in. People would learn the Game TV YouTube handle real quick
No,
if we started inciting violence
I am
on the
not.
stream.
I am not attempting to incite violence.
Or you give them a pie to the face. People love a good pieing.
Yeah, well, that's like the Dan Patrick thing now. Pie to the face bets.
Oh, is that what they do now?
Yeah, they have pie to the face bets.
I need to start listening again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's a good show.
Love Dan.
All right, so Clemson baseball coach Eric Bakich, great coach, had Michigan in a title series a couple of years ago against Vanderbilt. Been down there up there a couple of years now. Clemson's hosting this weekend. They've got Vandy and Coastal and I forget that they're the fourth team. Hang on. May as well get this right.
Coastal
High Point.
being the three.
High Point. High Point is the four. But Clemson struggled of late while hosting regionals. One of the reasons that maybe Monty Lee is no longer employed as Clemson's head baseball coach because Clemson hosted a bunch and they did not advance. I guess, is that enough of a setup to kind of get where this quote takes us?
Because the question did involve the angst around maybe not getting out of a regional since 2010, I believe it was.
A long time.
I was a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, because Carolina
Get out
and
of the
Clemson
regional.
played each other in Omaha in 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while. And then Clemson
Long
came
time.
here in 2012.
I think the song
In
It's
the
Been a
region.
While by Stained was written about this streak.
So that was the question.
Yes.
And here's what Eric had to say.
Yeah, everyone wants to talk about that, and the people who bring that up over and over and over and over and over again, those are called Gamecocks. You know, those aren't Clemson fans. That's South Carolina's fan base that love to troll, and that's fine. And we have to go out and do it. But you know, if you're going to start looking in history books, then go back to the mid-'90s and the early 2000s in the Coach Leggett heyday. Go back to Coach Wilhelm's days. This is a blue blood program with plenty of rich history and tradition. And, you know, if Clemson baseball truly is back, then we've got to go out and earn it on the field.
Did you say the BB word?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, though.
What's a team that's never won a title?
No, they haven't.
The BB word?
They're good, but they're and I was going to say I don't know. I'm literally trying to like rack my brain and think of a conversation I have had with a South Carolina baseball fan who has brought up to me any time recently enough about Clemson struggling to get out of the regionals.
I haven't even seen it online.
but
I learned about it today looking at this clip.
I have heard it from Clemson fans. So I got to push back on Coach Bakich on that one just a little bit.
There's a lot of things to push back on that.
Yeah. And look, is the head coach of a program going to call his own program a blue blood program? I don't know what he uses to define that.
I mean, it's kind of like Lane Kiffin saying Ole Miss is a blue blood program.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ole Miss, right? Like, don't they claim one of those like fourth-rate national titles from some season back when there was like
before the sport desegregated?
something?
Yeah,
Yes, you know, I hate to say it.
probably.
But yeah,
Maybe. They might have claimed one. They don't have a real one. How about that?
Well, it's like,
If I get a will actually on the text line, they won one in 1935.
Well, like
It's not counting.
Like Grandma Mamie's football newsletter. Right?
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. Where it was voted on by the by AP poll voters who only watched maybe 3 different teams throughout the year.
I think it was more like Grandma Mamie's Sunday school class.
Voted that Ole Miss was going to win the 1957.
At like Tupelo First Baptist Church or something. We think Ole Miss is the national champion.
They ain't never lost. They just ran out of time.
Y'all call Coach Vaught and tell him he won one.
We're going to give him one.
We'll get into more of the national tournament for you.
Blue blood.
And more thoughts from Coach Kingston. Derek Scott coming up, too. Be right back.
And we can argue all day about who's a blue blood, who's not a blue blood, who's the royalty of the sport, who's not. One thing you can't argue with, because it's an indisputable fact, is that my friends at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss helped me achieve a weight loss goal and blow it out of the water. Look, I went out to lose 15 pounds, get myself into better physical shape, and they helped me lose 20 and help me sleep better, feel better, and establish some significant habits that are going to make for a more sustainable lifestyle. If you're interested in this, I highly suggest my friends over at Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Paul, Grant, and Shaylin do great with coaching, giving you tips and all the resources you need to reach your weight loss goal. Give them a call, 803-824-4210. Again, 803-824-4210, or go to ColumbiaSecretForWeightLoss.com to learn the secret of losing up to 1 pound of unhealthy fat per day and start your own success story just like myself. Columbia Secret for Weight Loss.
4 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. Second hour of the postgame show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Along with Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. The voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott, will be with us bottom of the hour. We'll get his take on the Gamecocks' run in Hoover last week, what he and Coach Lake were seeing. I know at one point, I'll get Derek to explain more, but Stewart was explaining on the air about the weather patterns and why it was maybe contributing to a lot of offense in Hoover. I also think pitching numbers are just up, with the exception perhaps of Tennessee and Arkansas.
And A&M. I would say A&M. A&M was up there. I mean, there was really only 3 starting pitching staffs I was scared of going into Hoover, where I was like, ugh, you run into them, probably not winning. But even against Arkansas, which Arkansas didn't throw their best.
Well, Dave Van Horn, I think, just this year, he was like, screw it, I don't care.
They saved all their arms for the Kentucky game in a very odd way.
Yeah.
Because he pitched all 3 of his starters in that game.
But Tony Vitello's team went ahead and won it. Congratulations to them. They are the number 1 overall seed at the NCAA tournament.
Not good news for teams that hope to win the College World Series.
No.
Historically.
Although I got to tell you, man, they're drawn with the Greenville, North Carolina regional. I think Wake Forest is going to come out of that region. That's my personal opinion.
I feel really good about that one.
Yeah. So I think a Tennessee, Wake Forest, we might get 2-1 games, man.
Chase Burns in Knoxville. That's going to go over very well for Chase Burns.
Yeah. What else we got here? So the Norman Regional is paired up with the Tallahassee Regional. No SEC schools in Norman. Duke is the 2 seed out there. Alabama is the 2 in Tallahassee. I like Florida State winning that one.
I do too. I think Florida State had a really good run in the ACC tournament too. They've played well lately.
Arkansas, it's going to take a miracle for Louisiana Tech or Kansas State to win that region.
Bill Snyder ain't walking through that door.
The Charlottesville Regional is actually a good one, I think. Virginia will take on Penn.
Quakers.
Yeah. And Mississippi State will take on St. John's. That's a good region. That's a tough one.
That is.
That's a tough one.
St. John's a sneaky good 3 seed. The Big East isn't.
But St. John's is a pretty good baseball program.
They won 37 games this year. They won a lot of baseball games.
Arizona against Dallas Baptist in West Virginia. And you know what? Grand Canyon. I was listening to the D1 Baseball podcast today. The guys like Grand Canyon as a little opportunity to beat Arizona.
To be this year's Oral Roberts.
Maybe. In Chapel Hill, you've got LSU, Wofford, and is that Long Island? LIU? Is that Long Island?
That's right.
Is it?
LIU?
Okay.
Yeah. Long Island University.
Just making sure. Seriously, I was making sure.
I think they dropped the Brooklyn, though. They used to be LIU Brooklyn, but I think they dropped the Brooklyn.
I didn't think Brooklyn was on Long Island. I thought Queens was on Long Island, right? Not Brooklyn. I don't know.
I ain't never been.
Been to LaGuardia. That counts.
That's the airport, right?
Yeah, that counts.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of being in there.
That's Queens. That's Flushing.
That's Mets territory.
Oh, the Citi Field is right there. And old Shea Stadium was right there, too.
And you didn't go take a pilgrimage?
Citi Field is built on the parking lot of Shea Stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. I was trying to throw stuff out of the plane at the Mets, but you can't move. Those windows don't open.
They don't. No matter how politely you ask, they're not going to open them for you either.
I was getting mad, too. I was like, man, it's right there. Just get the
I want to vandalize the baseball stadium.
You know? The Kentucky Regional, the Lexington Regional has Indiana State. That could be interesting. Illinois could be interesting. I think Kentucky will win.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of teams there. Western Michigan is the 4 seed. That's paired up with the Corvallis Regional with Oregon State. The one, obviously, Irvine, who was in the hosting conversation for a while.
Anteaters.
Nichols, going all the way from Louisiana out to Corvallis. And Tulane is the 4 seed. So you never know. But Oregon State's very good. The Raleigh Regional is paired up with the Athens Regional. Gamecocks, again, are the 2 with the Pack, the 1. JMU will be Carolina's opponent on Friday. And Bryant, the Bulldogs of Bryant, will be the 4 seed. In Athens, you've got Wilmington, Georgia Tech, and Army. So, Georgia Tech. There's a lot of that, but again, they didn't send Carolina to Clemson.
Very upset about that.
Yeah, they didn't send Duke. Well, they couldn't send Duke to Chapel Hill, I guess. Can't do conferences in the opening round.
Got to be saved for the Supers.
But Clemson,
would be really cool.
The Clemson Regional paired with the Stillwater Regional. Again, Clemson is the 1, by the way, in their regional. Vandy the 2, Coastal the 3, High Point the 4. Stillwater is Oklahoma State with the 1. Nebraska, who won the Big Ten tournament, the 2. Florida is the 3. Florida is, in my opinion, the most controversial participant in this event.
Yeah, being 1 game over 500 should make you a controversial participant if you didn't win your conference tournament. Not many bid thieves, Jay Phillips, get into stealing a bid without having to win a single game in your conference tournament. Not many. Not many pull off that feat, but I consider Florida a bid thief because when you're 28 and 27, or whatever it is they end up finishing, they actually might have finished at flat 500, but you have no business.
I think it was 28. I think you're right, 28. I think that's right.
Yeah, 28-27.
Yeah. They had the number 1 strength of schedule, I think.
They did.
And that was basically, it feels like, the thing that got them in. That they, you know.
And taking 2 or 3 from Georgia in the last weekend.
Now, let me ask you this, because you follow these things closely. Should I, both, make a comparison to Texas A&M this past basketball tournament where we were all like, come on, man, you're barely 500 team. But then A&M, got it to the Sweet 16?
They did not. They got beat in the second round.
Second round? Did they have a play-in game?
They did not. They beat Nebraska in the 8-9 game, got beat by Houston.
Okay.
In a thrilling game.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, that it was a good game.
It was a really good game.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. And so is it something like that where you're going to get rewarded for being in a power league and playing a good non-con? I don't know.
If a team had number 1 strength of schedule and they played in the ACC, they're not getting in if they're 28-27. I feel pretty comfortable saying that.
I think Florida can win that regional.
I just don't know if they have the pitching. That's the thing. Even them as a 3, they're a dangerous 3 for anybody. And if you're a hosting school and you see Florida in your regional, you see Jack Caglione on the guy who's going to be playing on the team that's the 3 seed, you're going to be a little hacked off, and you're not going to like it either way.
Like, I'll be curious to see how Kevin O'Sullivan sets his team up this week.
He's going to play Jack Caglione at first and at second and at third, and he's going to pitch and catch.
Do you start
That's it. That's
Caglione against Nebraska right away?
Absolutely.
And then just take your chances?
Take your chances elsewhere. Win that first one and figure it out after.
The final pairings, the Santa Barbara Regional, UCSB is the 1, San Diego, the Toreros, not San Diego State, not the Aztecs, are the 2. Oregon is the 3, and Fresno State is the 4. So a nice West Coast regional there. The College Station Regional is who they're paired with. A&M is the 1. The Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, which are, that's 3 bad words around here when it comes to college baseball.
In regionals?
Yes, super regional, man. Oh, my gosh. It's truly one of the darker days.
This caused some emotional scarring.
It was brutal.
The fan base.
That was a brutal day.
What year would that have been?
2000.
2000, man.
Game 3. And it was tough, man. That was tough. Watching that dog pile, that old Sarge Fry. It got so, I mean, it's weird. Like, I'm trying to think. I can't think of it. It's one of those, I'm sure this happens at other places when the road team does something big, right?
Yeah.
So they had like the family and friends section, and then they had the team. And so when there's that small a number in a relative sense, and Sarge Fry held like half as much as what the new park holds, right? But the way Sarge Fry was built, it could get really loud, but it was so quiet except for those people. And it was weird how like there was no noise, but there was a lot of noise. You know what I mean?
Just in one small, concentrated part of the park.
The guys doing their thing, and then the folks on like the third base side, and again the family and friends section for
they're oftentimes
Louisiana.
Moved a little further away from the rest of the crowd.
I remember it got a little heated at times during the game, and it was a very good pitch. I think did they win 3-2? Was that the final score? I have to go. I think that sounds right. Anyway, I didn't mean to bring that up. Texas is the 3. So
you were just very traumatized by that loss to this game.
Listen. I try. and Grambling is the 4, so I can get that out of the way. A&M's going to win that one, but boy, if they get to see Texas, that's going to be.
I would love that.
That's
That'd
gonna
be
be
great. Great for the sport.
So
SEC matchup, classic SEC matchup.
Because of what that game could have led to, that's my number 2 worst. And what I was going to say is I try not to look. People know me. They know I grew up here in Columbia. They know I ultimately went to the University of South Carolina. And yes, I want Carolina to do well. A lot of you also actually get mad at me sometimes because I don't wear my fandom on my sleeve enough for some of you. But that's just not what I should do in terms of how I do my job. That's my opinion
Professionally,
about how I do my job. But I do support them, and I want them to do well. The number 1 worst day, and it's going to be tough to top, is Coppin, because that just should not have happened. And that one just hurts. That's just like
15 over a 2.
Oh, and they got their butt kicked. I mean, after a while, it was just done. It was painful to watch the last 7 or 8 minutes of that basketball game because Coppin just rolled over them. It was terrible. It was terrible. The Louisiana game, again, was a tight pitcher's duel, and Carolina was so good that year. We were like 25-5 in the conference.
Which is something you just do not do in the SEC.
Kip Balknight was player of the year, and they had an amazing rotation. The weekend guys were fantastic. That team was so bleeping good, man. Just like Eddie's team that won the SEC. But, again, Carolina made it to the Sweet 16, but at home, and it's just the way they lost. So that one's going to be number 2 because those games were in the postseason. When I was a little kid, and I don't know why I'm doing this.
Your eyes can get really
like when
big.
George, because George Rogers and I have actually done interviews about this on multiple occasions. When George hurt his hand and fumbled against Georgia, but that was a regular season game. Mm-hmm. The Clemson push-off game, that's a regular season game.
A Clemson regular season game, making it not just a regular season game.
It's a bigger game. I get it.
Yeah.
And that team, that Lou's team, that was a good team. That was a good team. They were. And there's a few others here and there that have stung, a little bit. But I just the seeing the Louisiana baseball team dogpile, knowing who they had just beaten, and people were filing out like it was a funeral. And I've just never, ever, and I was 29 years old, man. I'm not some little kid.
Right.
That was a difficult day. So, and
dark.
Again, I'm sorry to bring that up. I didn't mean to take us down that path. Just looking at the lineups here and the matchups, and there was Raging Cajuns. And
if Coppin State makes an men's NCAA tournament, that trigger is going to absolutely come back up. The same way it came up when you realized Lamont's team had to go play in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Because of that same emotional scar.
I don't even think it's the same building.
It's not. Oh, there's no way.
I think that was the old
PNG Paints is, I think, built in the 2000s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to say Carolina played in the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, which just sounds like,
Sounds like a community center.
I'll say like Friday, Thursday basketball, Friday roller derby.
Yeah. Thursday, the NCAA tournament. Right. Friday, roller derby. Saturday, other NCAA tournament games. Right. Sunday, bingo.
Super Tramp. Not even Super Tramp, like a Super Tramp cover band.
Meanwhile, Bon Jovi is playing at Bon Secours Wellness, which is a hospital.
Right. That's a story for another day. All right, come back on the other side. The Southeastern Conference meetings are taking place in Destin. Greg Sankey rattling the saber a little bit yesterday, maybe. We'll see what you guys think. You're listening to the Postgame Show. You know, a lot of guys just don't like to go to the doctor for any reason whatsoever. But as they get a little bit older and they feel a little bit off, they still don't want to go to the doctor. Why? Well, maybe you say, I'll tough it out. It'll be fine. Everything gets better eventually, right? Or you just don't want to talk about it, you know, which, again, is understandable, but not necessarily the best thing for you. Don't be that guy. Get to feeling better after you see Dr. Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. For years, they have been experts in healthcare for men. They're dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. Set up a free consultation, 803-875-MENS, and learn a lot more about what Dan and his team are doing. And go online to themensclinicsc.com. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment when you work with Dan Balknight and his team at the Men's Clinic. Again, 803-875-MENS and online at themensclinicsc.com. Nineteen minutes after 4 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm pausing there because I'm still reminding myself every time that it's Tuesday, not Monday. We had a holiday week. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Cale is hanging out with us. Derek Scott, the voice of the Gamecocks, coming up in about 10 minutes or so. SEC spring meetings take place annually around this time down on the Gulf Coast in Destin, Florida. Greg Sankey yesterday saying he would welcome congressional help when it comes to trying to get more regulation into college athletics, saying that he believes college sports needs, quote, a national system that deserves national standards. He added, I think Congress still has an opportunity to use the structure of this settlement to enact legislation to strengthen the future of college sports. This settlement being the settling basically of 3 cases. There's still one pending, by the way, in Colorado that was not settled as part of this. I'll be curious to see how that goes down. Again, this is something that college leaders are saying, hey, this doesn't stop all of it. Well, it's what you get when you screwed it up so bad that everybody's suing you.
If it isn't the consequences of your own inaction.
Yeah, I mean, it's their fault.
Congratulations.
It's, and that's one thing I can't stand is listening to some of these folks play victim. That's really getting
and
under
cry
my skin.
broke.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It is going to get worse. You know what they're still going to do? Fork over the money.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
still going to have college athletics.
Yeah,
They've had
and
it forever.
college sports is going to be fine. I mean, look, TV numbers are up. I'm going to blend a few things here real quick, but I've seen some people, I'm not going to watch college sports anymore. Yes, you are. And if you don't, okay, somebody's going to take your place. But, I mean, yes, you are.
Viewership has actually gone up. It has not been affected by this at all in the last couple of years.
No.
We have got a decent sample size now.
Yeah, it's going. It's actually way up.
Like breaking records, like
Yeah.
TV deals are becoming twice as lucrative.
Why you think the TV deals are as big as they are? Because the TV people know that you're watching and that they can sell big time ad dollars or get big time ad dollars. I mean, this is not hard.
Not rocket science.
And again, you know, and look, if this hacks some of you off what I'm getting ready to say, so be it. Stop pretending between your own ears that kids weren't getting paid to be in a part of college athletics. Please quit, okay? Because you're just fooling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And would you rather it be brought above board or not? It's really that simple. But stop acting like, oh, this is going to ruin it. No, it's not. No, it is not. It is going to be different. And there are still some growing pains that we're going to have to deal with. But don't be naive, okay? Go watch the Marcus Dupree 30 for 30.
Oh, or Pony Express.
Go watch Pony Express.
Anybody that's been in our business, Jay, I know me and you over the phone when preparing for these shows have exchanged our personal bagman stories that we have heard in our day. They are bountiful everywhere. Anyone that has worked this job, covered college sports, knows of several bagman stories of just one school alone. Everyone did it. And the ones who were the best at it are the ones who you don't know did it because it never saw the light of day.
Don't
the ones who are bad at it are SMU, Oklahoma with Marcus Dupree. We can name the examples of the ones who aren't very good at covering this stuff up, but it definitely happened. And because it didn't get caught, doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? So, I mean, these examples are everywhere. And I saw a tweet the night that the settlement was agreed upon from somebody. It's like a college sports fan account. Some of those ones I like to follow because they give lists and stuff. It's engagement farming, but I'll play, you know. And there was one account where it was like amateurism is dead. And I'm like, buddy, what year do you think it is? It always has been. Yeah. You know, it's like the astronaut meme. For those who haven't seen it, like amateurism's dead. Yeah, buddy, it always has been.
I mean, you better hope that amateurism can still have a place at the high school level, because there's several states now that are starting to allow NIL for high school kids. Now, again, why I'm going to pay a high school kid is beyond me, and that's a topic for another day.
Freedom to make a really bad investment, because it's a really bad investment.
And why am I trusting that what a 17-year-old is trying to sell me product-wise?
Unless it's Old Spice for you to buy your 17-year-old kid because you're tired of smelling them in the house after baseball practice, then maybe.
Right. Or,
not speaking from experience.
Like some kind of new version of Minecraft or something, But anyway.
I could have been sold on that as a 17-year-old, maybe.
Commissioner Sankey saying, I would welcome action between now and the election. Most people with whom I converse say that's unlikely, and so your educational process will continue post-election, and it will depend on who's in leadership of each party within the House and Senate, where the majorities lie, and who occupies the White House. Those realities guide conversations. Look, from what I can gather, if I read, the lines and in between them, there are still a lot of collegiate leaders be they presidents and chancellors, athletics directors, conference commissioners, that do indeed want some level of antitrust exemption. I'm not telling you it's impossible. I think it's not likely that they're going to get that this time around until we see what this settlement looks like, until you know that there are some safeguards in there for some of the kids moving forward. And there needs to be, listen, you can have protection on both sides. That's the give and take of labor negotiation. Right now, the overcorrection stems solely from the NCAA breaking tons and tons of federal laws for decades.
And now, asking the federal government for help, not breaking them.
Yeah. Hey, now would you write us a law that we can't break?
And part of negotiation, Jay, is two parties doing the negotiating, not having Congress do it on your behalf. If Greg Sankey wants results, he's better off calling the tooth fairy, asking for help, with legislating this, because Congress ain't going to do it. Don't know if for those listening, remember some of the tweets coming from Ben Portnoy or people that were covering the hearings about this. Spoiler alert, fixing college athletics had nothing to do with it.
Right.
They didn't want to talk about that.
Right.
Because if you know anything about national politics, is that they'll bunny trail and they'll talk about anything but the actual issue, and it's going to be a whole lot of talking with not a lot of results. So if you're Greg Sankey, you pick up the phone, you have a better option of calling the tooth fairy, as busy as the tooth fairy is, and that would give you better results than crying and asking for Congress for help. This is going to be on you and other commissioners who have gotten yourself in this mess.
Yeah.
Don't look to anybody else to fix this. You've had time. You just haven't done it.
I agree, and I would say as well, to further that point, so this is almost defending Greg Sankey in a separate, but kind of comes around to it. Remember that transformation committee that he was like the co-chair, but he was the co-chair with like the AD at the University of Ohio, or at Ohio U, whatever they call it, not
the Bobcats,
not Ohio State.
Right.
And it's like, wait a minute, you're still like, no, this is the problem. You've got two completely different levels of ability here, and you want them on the same page. Stop it. This is like saying to second graders, hey, we're going to have y'all be meeting with the ninth grade algebra class. Well, that's not going to go over very well.
Nope.
It's just not. So stop trying to do it. But again, everybody, it's a D1 thing. Stop it. So we got that's another set of problems that are out there, by the way. And again, I made the point the other day. What's the difference in a full scholarship, academic full scholarship student, of which there are plenty on campuses all across this country, that also have a job at the library, as an RA, as a TA, in the bookstore, any other place, as an archivist, as a lab assistant, wherever they can, there's plenty of, what's the difference? They're doing a service for the university while they're on scholarship. There's really not a difference. It's just that there's a lot of people that think, this is the way it's always been. The way it's always been has been bleeping illegal, man.
And wrong. Illegal and wrong.
I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
Could you imagine walking out of your chemistry lab because you're I guess the
TA's getting paid.
TA's getting paid, yeah. Can't do it.
That's just...
Can't enjoy this chemistry class.
That's just...
TA's getting paid.
It's just, and again, inflation has gone up 100% since the SEC expanded it in the early 90s. The income into the SEC has grown by 1,000% in that same time.
That's a big number.
It's okay to share some of that revenue. And they're going to. Just what does that structure
now that
look
they
like?
have to.
Yeah. Derek Scott on the other side of the break. Gamecocks with a 5-game run in Hoover. They went 3-2, and boy, what a couple of odd losses, man. 11-10 and 12-11. But it happens. How does Derek view what's coming up this week? We'll talk to the voice of the Gamecocks on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show. It's getting hot out there, y'all. Hope your air conditioning system is ready to keep you nice and cool. AAA Heating and Air, your year-round ally against changing weather, especially this time of year. Let their expert team ensure that your home is always an oasis of comfort. And with guaranteed financing, this luxury is more accessible and affordable than ever. That's right. Roy and Dana Finley have a new special, 12 months, no payments or interest if you buy in 2024. Plus, their 15-year parts and labor guarantee, a $1,500 system buyback rebate. They're in it for the long haul, just like their warranties. AAA Heating and Air has done a lot of great work at my house, but don't just take my word for it. Head over to the website for an instant quote and see the difference for yourself. That website, call AAAtoday.com. That's call AAAtoday.com. Or call them up, 803-677-1500. Tell them we sent you, and stay cool with AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start with a trio of them on I-20 westbound. One is before the Spears Creek Church Road exit near exit 82. One is just after the Monticello Road exit, exit 68. And then about 4 miles before that on exit 64, there's another accident. So 20 west moving pretty slowly at a few locations. We got a couple of incidents that have been cleared. One was on 20. That was over near Broad River Road near exit 65, moving a little better through there. And one on 77 southbound at Forest Drive near exit 12. That incident has since been cleared.
Talked a lot of baseball today. Got into a little bit of the SEC meetings as well. Talked a little Ronald Acuna, but back to the Gamecocks now. And we welcome on for his regular Tuesday visit the voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott, who spent a long week in Hoover, Alabama. Nice and warm, but 5 games played for South Carolina. And we did ask Stuart Lake when we talked to him if you all were heading to Jim and Nick's. So, or is it Nick and Jim's? I forget which one it is, Derek. It's Jim and Nick's, right? Did you go?
Didn't go to either one.
Didn't go. Didn't go to either one.
For Nick's. I can promise you that.
But a good run, man. Welcome aboard. Did they surpass your expectations last week?
That's an interesting question because I certainly did not go there anticipating 5 games. But at the same time, when you think back about it and go, well, they didn't have to do anything miraculous to get that far. If anything, you're kicking yourself for letting the 2 LSU games get away. So it's kind of a I guess a toss-up in that regards in hindsight because they played well, but they didn't play out of their minds, over their heads. So certainly not defensively. But overall, yeah, I was pretty pleased with the way that was able to rinse away the bad taste from 2 previous weekends. That's probably the priority in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Yeah, Derek, I'd love to ask you about Nick Lodolo helping the Reds get a big win over the Cardinals to really put a cherry on top of the weekend. But instead, I will ask you if there's anything stranger that you've ever had to cover as a play-by-play voice or just anybody that's been remotely working in baseball for as long as you have, but what we saw at home plate in the 10th inning against LSU, because I don't think I've ever watched a telecast where there were so many people confused about the rule, the application of the rule, or if we're even sure the umpires knew how to apply the rule in that scenario, because they didn't seem like they did either. So that has to be one of the weirder things I think any of us have ever seen in a baseball broadcast.
We have seen our share of weird this year, but that one was right there at the top. And the interesting thing about it was trying to play along and pick up on these small clues that could lead us to some more understanding because the press box was completely in the dark. The previous couple games we had been in the upstairs press box because we were the second game of the day, and that meant we were right beside the TV booth. And there would have likely been some ability to just walk over there, send Stewart on a mission to say, what the heck are they doing down there? Because those guys had, a reporter on the field that could help. And we are just completely in the dark. And because we were in the early slot, we were downstairs in the main press box, and nobody in that space knew what the heck was going on. We had Tyson Lusk trying to help us out, walking back and forth, and there was just such a flying blind feel to it. And that's something that is frustrating for all involved. We have people texting us, telling us what they were hearing on TV. And there's only so much faith you can put in that as someone, how that goes. Somebody thinks they hear something, but they might not have it straight. So you don't want to report that as fact. So, yeah, that was bizarre. And the interesting thing to me is when all the dust settles and the next day comes and you have a chance to hear and see what the SEC put out there with their head of umpiring explaining it and the video that went along with it, you kind of were led to believe that they did about the best they could with it because there were so many different layers to it. There was the initial call, and then there was the appeal, and then it just, the reason they had to go back out a second and third time were not to rehash the same issues, but because new issues were presented with the appeal and some of the other things that went on. But, yeah, it was a mess. There's no denying that. It was such a mess. And you know what no one's ever told us yet, and that is whether Blake Jackson tried to steal home on his own.
Yeah.
No one's gotten to the bottom of that with it, and I'm not sure they will. But I suspect that might actually have been an audible that Blake called. There's just a lot of that in my mind based on the way that Parker Noland reacted when it was coming his way. But who knows? Who really knows? It was crazy, though, that's for sure.
Well, and even, LSU wanted to protest that he never actually touched the plate, but there was a ball, there was a ball called. Yeah, and so that's irrelevant. And I think Jay Johnson knew that. I mean, you're awarded the base. He could have just walked back into the dugout at that point in time. But anyway, that was one of the more, and it took, 20 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite a scene. Derek Scott with us, the voice of the Gamecocks, Carolina, and James Madison to start the NCAA tournament at the Raleigh Regional Friday afternoon. We'll have it for you here with Derek and Stewart starting at 1:45. What did you, and let's bring Stewart into the conversation in terms of your conversations with him on air and off. What did you guys learn most about this ball club last week that you might not have thought about or that you just hadn't seen in a bit when it came to how they performed?
Well, I think you realize that the pitching, as rough as it had looked those 2 previous weeks, all is not lost on the pitching front, because I kind of suspected you'd get to the Hoover Met and things would look a lot better in a ballpark that's that big. But the problem there was it didn't play that big. Ball was flying out of there. But yet, South Carolina pitched much more appropriately. And there were a lot of guys that had some quality innings mixed in there. And when you stop and think about it, in SEC tournament play, I've had some argue that it's, you can add those wins and say, well, here's what our record really was when you add in conference tournament, game final results to your conference record. And others will say, well, yeah, but a lot of those aren't against your frontline SEC pitchers because you're playing on short rest and then you're playing so many games in a row. All of that being true, you cannot say that in the reverse, because the hitters are still the hitters. They're still the studs that make up SEC lineups. So if you pitched it pretty well over the course of 5 games in 5 days, that's something I think to build on. And there were a lot of guys that threw it better there than they had been recently. So I definitely think that's a plus. And you were doing that in a setting where you felt like the visiting team, at least for a few of those days. Certainly when you're playing LSU, you felt like the visiting team. Mm-hmm. And so, as you take your show on the road again this week up to Raleigh, you're going to be in a setting where you're at best neutral, at worst the visitor, and you're going to have, the ability to see how guys respond to it. And I think there's some real positives that you could take away from what went on in Hoover to hopefully carry forward with you.
And the situational hitting, I thought, was just phenomenal over the week. Especially even if you just take the grand slam element of it, where you haven't hit one all year and you crank out a couple when you're in Hoover. How much of that do you think carries over in a situation where obviously different ballpark, different type of environment, it's kind of similar but going to be different, and with the season on the line?
Yeah, I think there's confidence in a lot of guys right now that you take with you, and you watch the way that Brindling and Jackson are working at bats, and that's big. That really is. Those guys don't make it easy. You hate that Casas was coming along the way he was coming along, and you have just a feel that you won't have him at your disposal this week. You just hate that for that young man and the team. But no question, there's some guys that really showed some pretty drastic improvement, or maybe even just a little more of a spotlight on what they could do when you start watching them do it over 5 games.
Talking to Derek Scott here. Again, he and Stewart on the call Friday, Carolina and James Madison. Last thing for you here. When you look at, one of the things that Mark said last night, this is who we thought we could be. This is who, and they felt like that. You kind of are who you are at this point, defensive miscues and things like that. But is this a ball club now that feels no matter what, from what you've gathered being around them last week, they're back to maybe that stretch when they took 2 or 3 from Kentucky and started to feel good about themselves? Are they back to being that ball club?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, they really bonded together really well, played hard, were really somewhat unflappable. You consider some of the crazy stuff that went against them, and they just stayed in it. And, Stewart kept talking about minimizing damage, and they did a great job of that, and that will continue to be so important here in the regional. As you're not just going to go shut guys out, unlikely. So you've got to just find a way to try and take as many innings as you can, where if the opponent has something going on, and try and keep your wits about you and minimize how those innings turn out. And if you do that with this offense, I think you'll be okay. And I certainly am looking forward to seeing how this regional comes together. I don't think we're going to Raleigh with any feeling of trepidation that, oh boy, this isn't a good regional for us or anything of that nature. So I think we're all anxious to see how this bunch, is ready to go come Friday afternoon.
Good stuff as always. Safe travels up the road. We'll talk to you real soon. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Take care.
That is the voice of the Gamecocks, Derek Scott, D. Scott Gamecocks, to follow along on Twitter. I want to come back with a couple of things that he had to say there. Postgame show continues. 11 minutes in front of 5 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Thanks to Derek Scott for joining us. Coming up, top of the 5, headlines of the day. I'll have some sound from Coach Kingston. Bill Gunner and I getting a chance to talk with Mark earlier this morning on our Gamecocks Plus Cocktail Hour television show, which, again, shameless plug, but enjoy it.
I like cocktails. I love hours.
Yep. It's an hour long. Actually, it's not. It's like a half hour.
The cocktail half hour.
But that doesn't have the same ring.
No, not at all.
So
Appropriately named.
Yep. That's what it is.
That's the ruling.
Derek echoed something you and I have already said, and that's what I wanted to kind of come back and talk about for those who haven't heard us getting into a lot of Carolina baseball today. You ran through a gauntlet last week, and I'll use that refrain again. But like Derek said, you're not going up there with any trepidation about whether or not you think you can win those games.
Nope.
Look, I think in almost all of these, let me go back and find it. I mean, honestly, Elijah, like the only home team that I might be a little nervous about, I don't know. Like
I'd be a little nervous about Florida State.
Yeah, a little, but only a little. But like Santa Barbara, I don't know. Oregon's pretty good, and they're a 3.
Oregon can make it out of that.
Virginia, I'd be a little nervous because Mississippi State's really good. But I mean, otherwise, look, Oklahoma. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of heavy home favorites, is my point. And NC State will be a home favorite. I mean, look, you're at home for a reason.
Certainly.
But South Carolina is NC State, and you don't even know if you're going to play NC State yet. So first, James Madison. But if you look at the regional, you're going to have to get by State at some point. You got to get by James Madison first. But look, James Madison doesn't throw any fear your way based on what you saw last week, and nor does NC State. I guess my question would be, with all due respect to James Madison, is there any team last week that Carolina played, win or lose, that you think NC State's better than? Even LSU?
If you look at the seasons as a whole, I mean, because NC State did finish their season sweeping Wake Forest at home, taking 2 of 3 against Virginia at Virginia, and then splitting with Florida State at Florida State, had a game get rained out. But I mean, you're looking at
That's good.
I mean, that's
really good.
And out of their last 9 games, they won 8 of them, and they were on the road against Florida State and Virginia in a 3-game series against Wake Forest.
That's a really good baseball team.
They are playing really good. If you look at like their earlier season results, they were a couple slip-ups. I mean, Louisville swept them, and they got swept by Georgia Tech, who is a slightly above-average baseball team. But they're playing really well right now. For the same reason, I wouldn't want to play Florida State. I wouldn't want to play them right now. So with LSU playing their best baseball right now, NC State playing theirs, I might even give NC State a little bit of a nod.
Okay.
There's some weird Hoover magic for LSU, too.
Yeah,
take them out of there. You can take the team out of Hoover.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would take NC State as opposed to LSU. Don't think I would much rather play NC State than Kentucky, than Arkansas, than Tennessee, certainly.
Maybe even Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would even say Georgia for sure. But like NC State's significantly better than someone like Alabama.
Yeah. Yeah. No, NC State's hosting for a reason. And as you mentioned, they come into this thing feeling really good about themselves.
Red hot.
Yeah. So that's something to be concerned about, but not to the point of like,
all right, pack it up.
Can't believe we got that draw.
No.
Yeah, this is not, I don't see that in this South Carolina team. And, I go back to the week after Carolina took 2 of 3 from Kentucky here. And while I didn't bring it up directly with Derek, that was when we asked him, was that a month ago now, right? Like, hey, is this team like, just starting to kind of come into form, or is it like kind of on a hot streak? He's like, well, you can't really get on a hot streak. It's just there's too many losses here and there
that are going to happen.
Yeah, to really get on some kind of streak, but you feel better about yourself. And I think that's kind of what they needed to do last week. I'm like him. Look, only the most ardent supporter thought they were going to, would have said, oh, no, they're going to get to the semifinal. You know,
I wouldn't have predicted.
I know. Listen, I think most people, as I said, predicted that they would not get past Alabama in the play-in game.
Mm-hmm.
And
We did a poll that week, and a large majority said they were going one and done.
And I get it. It's a totally understandable stance to have taken at that time, especially. But again, this team can score runs, and last week they proved it again. And that's what I mean when I say, again, it's not like a duh, you got to go score more runs. But this may be a team that has to win games by scoring 7, 8, 9 runs a game.
Yeah.
And
it's looking like they've had to.
Yeah. And can you keep doing that? That'll be one of the interesting things to watch here in the coming days. More from Coach Kingston coming up. Headlines of the day, a drive around the SEC in the final hour of the postgame show. Since 1936, Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union has been part of the Midlands. They go the extra mile for their members. No matter how many commas are in their account, they see the difference that they can make in the community every day, whether it's teachers who get a new car loan, the local business that opened up, when maybe the big banks just didn't take the leap of faith with them when it came to what they wanted to do here locally. To Palmetto Citizens, it's not just about the money. They're committed to making the Midlands a better place, and that means donating time and energy week in and week out to helping those who need it the most. When you use Palmetto Citizens for your banking needs, checking, savings, credit cards, car loans, equity lines, mortgages, student loans, you name it, you're going to get it with lower rates, fewer fees, and all that money coming from the Midlands, staying in the Midlands. My wife and I are customers. We love what they've done for us. We think you will too. Check them out, 14 locations and always online at palmettocitizens.org.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some delays on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start with a pretty big one. Big accident in West Columbia. It's stop-and-go traffic right now on 26 West, just after the Augusta Road exit 111, and all the way on to I-20 near exit 107B. Still have a few more minor ones here in Richland County. We got one on Colonial Drive at Muller Avenue, one on 20 westbound after the Monticello Road exit 68, one on River Drive near Anthony, one on Universal Drive at Garner's Ferry Road, and lastly, an accident has just been reported at US 378 at Pineview Road and Hallbrook Drive.
You know, I only got to hear that once last week, so it's good to.
You got to soak it in this time.
Yeah, it's good to hear it again. It's been a while. Welcome in. Final hour of the postgame show coming at you. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Headlines of the day. We'll start with South Carolina baseball. They have learned where they will play. If you have not yet heard, well, I'll tell you. They're in the Raleigh Regional against NC State. The Gamecocks are the 2 seed. The Wolfpack the 1. Carolina will actually get it started on Friday afternoon against 3 seed James Madison. The 4th seed is Bryan. They are out. Bryant, out of Rhode Island. See?
Not to be confused with Bryan.
With Bryan, yeah. See, you did. That was your fault. You did that earlier to me, and then it got me all. I blame you.
All I had to do was bring in the comparable.
Yeah.
Which I thought Bryant was Bryan.
Bryant with a T. Bryant. Yeah. The Raleigh Regional is paired up with the Athens Regional. Where Georgia, of course, is the 1, UNCW the 2, Georgia Tech the 3, and Army is the 4. So, again, the winners of the Raleigh and Athens regionals will advance to the Supers and see one another. Got to like Georgia's chances in that one. And I was just asking Elijah, you probably do have to like NC State's chances. They are playing very good baseball and have beaten some very good teams of late coming into this tournament. But South Carolina feels better about itself after playing 5 games in Hoover, winning 3 of them. And the 2 losses, I mean, go back and try to find a time when you scored, 21 runs in 2 games and you didn't win either one of them, right?
And you ask, what must have happened?
Errors.
That's how you lose those type of games right there.
The errors did play a big part on
Makes
that.
it bittersweet.
Cut number 6, please. Here's Mark Kingston on what the team's going to be doing this week to try to get a little bit better defensively.
We fielded 979 in 30 conference games this year. It was not a problem all year. Why it was a problem this week on this field, I don't know. We got to dig into it. Got to talk to our players, communicate a little bit, ask them as we get to a regional, is there anything we can do to help get you more ready? I don't think there is because our guys prepare very well. Our guys are good. We fielded 979. That's pretty damn good all year. And for whatever reason, that type of defense didn't show up this week. And we'll do everything we can to get it better.
Gamecocks weren't, in my opinion, and I know it's an opinion shared by others, especially sharp defensively in their 3 wins in Hoover either. And I think a lot of it seemed to be situational mental mistakes that then maybe were compounded by the physical part. Again, errors are part of the game. How many times have I said, R, H, E? That's part of the line score. The E's happen, but you got to be prepared for what's coming your way. And it did seem at times like Carolina made some of those fundamental mistakes, that you work on as a little leaguer and as a young pony leaguer or middle schooler, into the first couple of years of high school.
Fundamental stuff.
Yeah. You just got to get better. With those kind of things. We'll have more from Coach Kingston coming up in just a little bit. Tennessee, by the way, is the number 1 overall seed in this tournament. Kentucky, number 2. I'm just going to run down the 1 seeds and the regional pairings. Tennessee, that Knoxville winner paired with the Greenville, North Carolina winner. East Carolina, the 1. Oklahoma, the 1 in Norman. Paired up with the Tallahassee Regional and Florida State as the 1. Arkansas, the 1 in Fayetteville, paired up with the Charlottesville Regional, UVA. Tucson, Arizona, number 1, paired up with the Chapel Hill Regional. Then on the other side of the bracket, again, Kentucky, the number 2 overall seed. They're paired up with the Corvallis Regional with Oregon State as the 1. Again, Raleigh and Athens. told you about. Clemson's regional with the Tigers as the one. They've got Vandy, by the way, Coastal, and High Point.
It's a very intriguing regional.
Vandy continues to get sent to Clemson. I don't know how the Clemson folk feel about that.
I'm sure Eric Bakich is thrilled.
Yes,
has had many a meeting with Vanderbilt in his day.
And a lot of folks too, by the way, they're paired up with the Stillwater Regional, Oklahoma State, the number one. That's where Florida is as the 3 seed. Coastal Carolina as a 3 seed at large. Some feel maybe it was the last team into this field. And there are a lot of people. I was watching the D1 baseball reaction show with Kendall and Mark and Aaron and Joe Healy, and suffice to say, Elijah, they felt like Matt Hogue, the Coastal AD, being the chair of the committee, was actually what was the deciding factor for Coastal getting into this event over, say, the College of Charleston, who had 41 wins?
41 and 14.
Yeah. Sun Belt's a good league. I get it. Yeah. And Mark Etheridge of D1 Baseball said, I've seen some media guys say, well, you got to leave the room and recuse yourself when they're talking about your team. And Mark, obviously in jest, goes, yeah, and then they come back.
They don't disappear forever. They respawn.
I don't know what I'm not there. We don't have flies on the wall for this kind of thing. But if you're the chair of the committee, how do you go back to campus if you're fighting for your club and tell the boss, yeah, sorry, Chief, I didn't get it done.
Got shouted down.
If
only there was more I could do.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But now Coastal's getting the chance to play Vandy, and one of them will likely see Clemson on Saturday. So, interesting.
Unless High Point does the unthinkable.
Interesting, yeah. Again, that regional paired up with the Stillwater Regional, and then finally the Santa Barbara Regional. The Gauchos are the one. UC Santa Barbara paired up with the College Station Regional, where Texas A&M is the 1, Louisiana the 2, and Texas the 3, with Grambling the 4. So Texas versus Texas A&M potentially this weekend.
Very possible.
That would be something.
That wouldn't be energizing at all in that baseball park.
And can't do it again after this season. So
nope.
I'm kind of glad the committee did that one, to be honest with you.
So we can get them as non-cons for the last time.
Yeah. Although if these conferences keep expanding, at some point you might have to actually put 2 conference teams.
That rule will definitely have to go away at some point.
I mean,
but that's also assuming the Big Ten's going to produce a lot in baseball.
Well,
I'm not going to hold my breath.
They got 3 in this year, right? Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana. Am I missing anybody?
That is correct. And Indiana was one of the last 4 in.
Yeah.
In Indiana, and that was kind of questionable.
Some people not happy about Indiana getting in.
You could put College of Charleston over Indiana.
Yeah. Indiana's RPI like high 50s.
54.
Ole Miss, meanwhile,
12 spots behind College of Charleston.
Yeah, I don't know how you left Charleston. Again, I really do think Coastal got in over Charleston. I think it, and not just a coast of South Carolina thing either. Although I don't know. I was stunned Charleston didn't make it.
Yeah, I was too. And seeing that Indiana made it, and they did not.
I didn't like that. I didn't like that. But it happens. So, and Coach Holbrook, boy,
he was tore up about it. You could tell.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
Yeah.
And good on him for making all that FCC appropriate. I would not have if I were the coach.
Nah, Chad's a nice guy, man. He's a nice guy. Staying with our integrated media headlines of the day, some good news for South Carolina men's basketball. 3-star power forward E.J. Walker of Kentucky committed to the Gamecocks. That's their 3rd pledge for the upcoming 2025 class. It was down to Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Purdue for this kid.
Plucked him out of Big Ten country.
Yeah, that's a good get, man. He is the number 125 overall player in the class, 6'8", 220.
Solid.
And Jamie Shaw, who follows recruiting for On3, says that he really likes this kid a lot and that he might compare to B.J. Mack in terms of a big who can utilize the whole floor. So interesting. We'll see. But this will be a kid that comes in next season.
I do believe he is part of the 3-stripe, I guess the Adidas travel circuit So that's, and I like to make my trips out to Rock Hill and to North Augusta during the July basketball circuit. So might have to go give a full report.
Again, he's ranked number 125 overall, number 28 power forward, and the number 2 prospect in Kentucky for the 2025 class. Now you just got to hope that Coach Pope doesn't look at this kid and go, hey.
And change his mind.
You're really good when he's going to have his senior season coming up.
But, hey, at least, Pope's been there for about a month now. He's already doing some recruiting, and he still hasn't sealed the deal with EJ. So They can't rehire Mark Pope and then get him reinterested. I don't know.
Not how it works.
No, can't do that. Can't respawn.
I talked about this earlier, but if you missed it, Braves fans, Ronald Acuna Jr. is done for the season. 3 years ago, he tore the ACL in his right knee. This time it is the ACL in his left knee. He did this sliding into second base in Pittsburgh over the weekend. No word yet on how Atlanta may look to replace him. When I say long-term for the rest of the season, in the short term, Adam Duvall will be playing right field. But as Elijah and I mentioned earlier, Adam Duvall is really not a long-term solution.
You wouldn't describe him as fleet of foot?
I would just not describe. No, I would not. And I would say that he is not an everyday right fielder. That's just not what he's built for.
Kind of a statue.
Yeah. Not what he's built for.
Get the range of a grand piano.
No, it's better than that.
Okay.
It's better than that. Again, Ozuna has the range of a grand piano. Yes. I am still convinced of that, by the way. I mentioned that earlier. You put Marcell Ozuna in left field or an open grand piano in left field, and I think the same number of putouts will be made.
Adam Duvall might be more like 6 kiddie pools, like taped together.
Yeah.
In a horizontal line.
Yeah. Yeah, Adam, when Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna could cover 3/4 of the outfield with their speed, then, Adam Duvall in left can cover the other 25% and everything's okay. Again, it's 3 outfielders, but they're covering like 3 sections and he covers the 4.
There's like wireless cell network. I mean, it's supposed to go everywhere. It's a very wide range.
Well, I mean, listen, Harris and Acuna, man, I swear, I think there might be days when you could put 2 of them in the outfield and they could cover all of it.
And you'd be fine.
Yeah.
And just add an extra DH.
I mean, they can cover a lot of ground, but incredibly disappointed for Ronald Acuna. And again, the last time this happened, the Braves made some moves and they won the World Series. You have every reason to believe that because of that and how this team is constructed and what this team does to run itself, that they will go make a move if necessary. If there's somebody in the organization, they might give that guy a try first. I'm not sure that person is there.
I'm not either. I don't know exactly how deep the farm system is at this point in time, but with who you got, I mean, there is a short-term solution. We'll see how bad it ends up getting. But.
Yeah. Finally, NBA Finals nearly set. The Boston Celtics have swept the Indiana Pacers 4-0 tonight. The Dallas Mavericks look to close out the T-Wolves 4-0. Mavericks up 3-0, 8:30 tip time in Dallas. The Mavs slight favorites in this one at 1.5. Elijah Campbell's EBPI for the NBA says what tonight?
Says we're going to Minnesota for one more. Yeah. I think they still won. They still won. Especially if Scott Foster's in the building, we're getting an extra one.
These games have been closer.
They have been. Well, even the Pacers.
Unlike the Boston, they had a couple of good ones.
They had a couple where the Pacers just kind of drooled on themselves in the final minutes of the game. But these have been really close. It took, in game 2, it took Luka hitting a shot with Rudy Gobert in his grill, an incredibly high degree of difficulty shot. And then it took Kyrie hitting like 4 of those shots in the final couple minutes of game 3. So really the only one where I thought Dallas was just the better team tip to finish was game 1. So I think even as they are, I think Anthony Edwards is going to get the green light to shoot 50 times. And I think, he's going to be able to make a lot more this time, even if he is uncomfortable. We don't know if Derek Lively is going to be able to play because he did take a gnarly knee to the back of the head. He's a very important role player.
I thought Rudy Gobert was good at defense. What happened?
He is. And sometimes guys just make shots. If you stay on Twitter long enough, you would believe that all it takes is good defense to beat good offense. But, sometimes dudes are just dudes that hit shots. Luka Doncic is a dude who hits tough shots.
I love staying on Twitter a long time. It's great.
It's great for your mental health. You should do it more often. Yeah, it's a really good, well-measured, thoughtful place full of great discussion and really uplifting discourse.
Yeah. I think there should be a new slogan, X, where fact is opinion and opinion is fact. X.
And nothing will get fact-checked.
Well, now that I'm a Mavs super fan, things have been going really well.
I was going to say, if you are dabbling on this game, the stat you should know is the Mavericks are 3-0 since Jay Phillips adopted the Dallas Mavericks.
Okay. So I'm here for the long haul, kids. I'm here for the long haul. That's our integrated media headlines of the day, 803-948-8327. Watch that game and many others better than ever with integrated media. Sound from Coach Kingston coming up.
A lot of talk about the basketball and hockey playoffs, and look, we're getting really close to both of them being in their final rounds, so you don't want to miss out on an awesome opportunity to get in on that action with our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million active members, and it's incredibly easy to use. Look, all you got to do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. I'll be playing tonight. I've got my eye on Anthony Edwards going more than 27 points. We talked about it in the last segment. It's a do or die game for the Timberwolves, and if they're going to win, they're going to need Anthony Edwards to be able to put up a lot of points and get them some big buckets. So I'm leaning more on Anthony Edwards on 27 points for them to make that series interesting. You can do the same things. Download the app today. Use promo code 1075GAME for a first deposit match up to $100. That's promo code 1075GAME. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Welcome back into the postgame show on this Tuesday. Jay and Elijah with you. Kale's hanging out with us here this afternoon as well, wherever you are. Appreciate you being with us. I want to thank Robin, who just hit us. Robin is she's one of the good things about Twitter. Now, she says, I just logged on at 5 p.m. when all session booklets were to be available for the Raleigh Regional. None. She put in all caps, none available, not even standing room only. So, Gamecock fans, you may be struggling to find some seats unless you're doing it on the third-party market.
Our friends at Ticketmaster.
Yeah. Oh,
always fair to the market.
Yeah, they've had a good year.
Yeah. They've had a good stretch. Yeah, absolutely. They've had no tussles with any big names in terms of mismanaging the market of tickets.
So good luck with that. Thank you, Robin. Appreciate it. So there's just a little heads up for those of you who may be like, what the hell's going on here? I think they're just, I think they're all gone. Wolfpack Club got them first.
Ate them up.
Yeah. That's how it works, man.
Yeah.
Got to say that there's
what Wolves do, man.
Yeah, that's true. Coach Mark Kingston spoke yesterday, and he really, stepped down a couple of notches this morning because he talked to Bill Gunner and me.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Well,
he can't escape you.
No,
that's the one thing. He walks there and sees. He's like, oh,
yeah. And then there was Gunner talking about, and Gunner just wanted to talk about boats,
which I'm sure Mark would actually rather talk about.
Well, yeah, at some point, I'm sure. But no, we actually got the thank you,
the Miami Dolphins,
and thank you, very, very, very sincere thank you to Dakota Watson, who produces and directs the Cocktail Hour that Bill Gunner and I do on Gamecocks Plus. And Dakota was kind enough to send us this audio, which Elijah has torn all apart to share with us. So I'll let you set it up, sir.
Yeah, it's just so we don't violate any fair use law. And that way it's not totally free. You still got to subscribe and pay the money. But it starts off here, Jay, with you asking about the run in Hoover after they had such a tumultuous final 6 games of the regular season.
Yeah, look, a baseball season has ups and downs. It's a marathon. You're going to have some miles that feel very easy, and you're going to have some miles where, like, man, how are we going to finish this thing? And an SEC baseball season is very similar to that. We finished at home against Georgia and on the road against Tennessee, the national #1 seed. Games didn't go our way, but over the course of the season, we knew we were a good team. We knew we had a good ball club, and I think that really showed in Hoover. It showed the resolve of this team that you might knock us out, but we're going to get right back up and keep fighting. I think that's what was shown in Hoover, but we showed they were a pretty darn good team. We scored a lot of runs. Our pitchers responded very well after having to be at Tennessee for that last weekend. And obviously defensively, we need to shore some things up. But I think we showed we can beat anybody in the country on any given day.
Obviously, you got to talk about Cole Messina's performance there. I think it might be the greatest Gamecock performance in Hoover that this program's ever had. And he makes an all-tournament team. And probably, we talked about, maybe should have been named MVP just for what he did. But what did you see from that guy stepping up, not just as a leader, guiding this team, but also his play?
Yeah, his play was incredible. Behind the plate, at the plate, obviously, he set some records offensively in Hoover last week. Everybody knows he's our emotional leader. He's our heart and soul, and everybody kind of follows him through the door. Just an incredible performance. And again, I would agree. I'd have to look in the record books to see if anybody has ever had a better week in Hoover representing the Gamecocks. I've never heard of any. So he was just at his best when his best was required, and that's what the best players do.
You mentioned the tough streak against Georgia and Tennessee, and then it leads you into playing 5 games and winning 3 of them. Where's the line between, I don't want to say the throw the bat in the shower moment, all right, or anything like that, relative to veteran players maybe taking some ownership, leadership? Where do you find that you draw those lines in kind of picking guys back up?
Yeah, well, Bull Durham came out, as you're referring to, for the baseball fans out there. The throw the bats in the shower moment happened in Bull Durham. That movie was made in 1988. It's a long time ago. And so you have to kind of relate to your players maybe a little bit different in 2024.
It's not required watching of baseball?
It's a great baseball movie, absolutely. But some of the lessons there stand the test of time, some don't. And I would say these days, calm, stable leadership has to win the day, whether it's from the coaches, whether it's from the leaders on your team. We talk about it all the time, even getting ready for a season. There's going to be ups and downs, and you have to be able to manage them. LSU, for example, started the year 3-12 in our league. That's what this league will do to you. You just have to be tough enough to deal with it. And I think that's built from within. It's built from going to Fort Jackson as a team. It's built with a daily emphasis on just you do the right things every day, and then you do it again, you do it again, you do it again, and you can't get too high or you can't get too low. And that's been the mindset of this team the entire year. So we went through a little bit of a rough patch, but because we have the kind of, I think, the strength from the inside, we dealt with it, we corrected things that needed to be corrected, and we kept pushing forward and had a great week in Hoover.
What did you learn last week? When you get into the tournament, you got to play 5 games in that many days, and now you've got to figure out, you and Coach Williams got to figure out pitching rotation. What did you maybe learn about some of your guys in situations you can put them in this coming weekend where you're gonna, it's a do or die situation?
Yeah, the biggest thing we continue to learn pitching wise is which guys are better out of the pen, which guys are better starting. Garrett Gainey, for example, has had flash moments of being great in both areas, but also, you know, sometimes the longer his outing is, the more he just pitches and doesn't try to overthrow. And we've seen a couple times, you know, in closing situations, he gets, if you probably noticed, he gets pretty ramped up and the velocity gets up there pretty good, and he kind of forgets sometimes because he's so intense and he's so competitive that, hey, just make a good pitch here, and maybe the better thing for him to do is to start him in a regional. So he's one of our best guys, clearly. It's just a matter of what's the best way to use him in a regional environment, because a regional environment is different than what Hoover was, where you've got to win 4 or 5 games to win that thing, which is different than a regular season weekend, because you winning 2 out of 3 in the SEC is a great weekend. So there's a lot of different moving parts there, and just getting the chance to see our guys in as many positions as possible gives us a better chance to kind of try to get it right as we go to a regional.
How does it work in baseball with this? When you go something like, do you try and sit with your guys on Wednesday or Thursday and go, okay, this is likely your role, or this is your role for the weekend, or is it something where you have to tell your guys, we're going to go up there, here's starter 1, here's starter 2, and the rest of you be prepared when your number's called?
Yeah, generally when you have a pitching staff, guys know they're starters, guys know that's the closer, guys know that's the setup man, and here's the middle relievers. This pitching staff's been a little bit unique, and it's offered some challenges of, okay, this week, this guy's a starter, but it might be a 3-inning stint in case we want to bring him back on Tuesday. Right. Or Garrett Gainey may be a closer on Friday, and if that's the case, then he won't start the rest of the weekend, and we'll bring him back on Sunday out of the bullpen again. Or you don't use him on Friday, and he's going to start on Saturday, because you either want 2 short stints out of a guy like that or 1 long start. And so that's kind of where we are as a staff. So the guys know they have some roles, but they also know be ready to be flexible.
Good stuff from Coach Kingston. Again, Bill and I getting a chance to speak with him. There's a lot more in that interview, and that episode of the Cocktail Hour on Gamecocks Plus will be coming out, I believe, tomorrow.
Okay.
Evening.
Sneak peek. This is a nice
right.
tease for it.
That's right. But again, thanks to Dakota Watson for sharing that with us. Thanks to Mark for sitting down and talking with Bill and me. And there's a few other things that we got to about some coaching philosophy, the defense. Mm-hmm. That'll all be a part of the show that comes out tomorrow on Gamecocks Plus. So again, hope you'll tune in. We've had a good time with that this year.
Yeah, and our boy Steven on the YouTube stream says, since it is the cocktail hour, you guys ought to have a cocktail during the show. Now, I'll pose this to you. Jay, good or bad idea?
It's a fine idea. Unfortunately, Stephen, the catch is that we typically record that around 10:45, 11 o'clock on Tuesdays.
And
then I've got to come back to work. Gunner could get lit. He doesn't have, he's good. He's done for the day at that point.
True. Fair.
I sadly, well, not sadly, I enjoy coming to work with you every day. But
well, then you can come here and it can be the cocktail hours.
Yeah, it'd be a show, man.
Party keeps going.
It'd be a show. Football coaches weighing in on changes to the sport. That's part of the drive around the SEC coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon. We'll start with some good news, though, and that's that the accident on 26 westbound after Sunset Boulevard and exit 110 has been cleared, so traffic's moving a lot smoother through 26 West. We still have a couple issues. One, a little further back on 26 West, that's going to be on Augusta Road near exit 111 and on to St. Andrews Road near exit 106. There's an accident there that has created some stop-and-go traffic, so moving very slowly through that area. We have a couple here in Columbia, one on 26 eastbound at St. Andrews Road and exit 106, one on 20 west at Spears Creek Church Road near exit 82, and one on 20 west at Spears Creek Church Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time. LSU nearly sat on the throne of SEC baseball for the 2024 tournament calendar. Didn't quite happen. What an amazing week it was. South Carolina losing to LSU 11-10, 12-11. And then they go play Tennessee on Sunday, and the Vols win 4-3.
And I wouldn't say maybe a pitcher's duel, but the bats were a lot more silent.
Yeah.
And they were down 4-1 until they got to the ninth inning, put up 2 on the board, had a runner on second and 2 outs, and Tennessee needed a clutch strikeout to seal the deal. It got really dramatic on that final day.
Cole Messina was named to the all-tournament team. Elijah has the entire lineup for you of the guys that were pretty good last week.
Oh, yeah. Well, the 2 pitchers, Luke Holman from LSU and Brooks Auger from Mississippi State. Those are your 2 pitchers. The DH, Hayden Travinsky for LSU. First base, Blake Burke from Tennessee. Second base, Stephen Milam from LSU. Third base, Tommy White, LSU. Shortstop, Michael Braswell from LSU. Love that for the Gamecock fans out there. I'm sure they love to hear that. Outfielder, Connor Huschak from Mississippi State. Outfielder, Kavaris Tears from Tennessee. Outfielder, Calvin Hewitt from Vanderbilt. And the MVP of the SEC baseball tournament, Blake Burke, Tennessee.
That makes sense. But Messina had a heck of a week, man.
Had a record-breaking week.
Yeah, heck of a week, no doubt. And, one of the other things we asked Mark that Gamecocks have no grand slams in the regular season, 2 in Hoover. So I said, so you guys decided that this was part of the framework now. And he's like, yeah, we let the guys know that you actually are allowed to hit grand slams and it counts. And I was like, hey, there you go.
And was it Gunner who chimed in and said, the analytics say that grand slams are really good for the offense?
Sure.
And I was like, man, I didn't know Bill was into sabermetrics like that. That's good.
I mean, I
He's
think
doing his homework.
if you score all the runs possible.
That's next level research.
Yeah. Well, Gunner's smart, man. He's crafty.
He's got it figured out.
Yeah. He's crafty. SEC meetings going on. By the way, 11 SEC schools made the baseball tournament.
That's a lot.
11 of them. You know what? I'll write that down. We've already done it once, but I just remembered that, we haven't done it for everybody. Tennessee's the #1 overall seed. Let's see.
Bad news if you're trying to win a national championship.
I'm going to go down this side of the bracket with SEC schools. Again, Tennessee, #1 overall. They're at home. Alabama is the 2 seed in Tallahassee. Arkansas will host in Fayetteville. Mississippi State is going to Charlottesville as a 2 seed. LSU going to Chapel Hill as a 2 seed. Kentucky is the #2 overall national seed. Carolina going to Raleigh. Georgia hosting. Vandy going to Clemson. Florida is a 3 seed in Stillwater. And A&M is hosting. So that's your 11. Mississippi didn't make it. What was their final RPI? 28, you said?
32.
Oh, 32.
And the stat is no team in the top 30 of the RPI, no SEC team in the top 30 of the RPI has ever missed the NCAA tournament. Yeah. That was a stat that our guy Mitch Light gave us whenever, the sky was falling here in Columbia after those ugly 3 losses to Georgia and going into a very ominous-looking series in Knoxville, which turned out to be a sweep.
No, I mean, you and I know we're not alone. You know, I know Cloninger felt this way and some others. Aaron Fitt felt this way. Mitch Light of The Athletic felt this way, that South Carolina wasn't going to miss the tournament. You may have played your way down to a 3-seed line.
Which you don't want to be.
Yeah, but you weren't going to get yourself knocked out of this tournament. I just didn't foresee that at all. You had too solid a body of work. So there you go. All these things get going on Friday. And again, Carolina and James Madison will be Friday, 1:45 airtime, 2 o'clock-ish first pitch. JMU with a team ERA over 6, Carolina with a team ERA over 5. Elijah and I think we will have a show, or at least a segment or two.
We can get a segment in.
Yeah.
Hypothesize that we'll get a segment.
I think we'll start around this time. I think we'll have a drive around the SEC.
Just in time for a drive around and for one more.
And then wave at everybody.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. See y'all.
Good show.
That's right. Southeastern Conference meetings going on in Destin. We talked earlier about what Greg Sankey had to say in terms of crossing your fingers and hoping that Congress was going to help save some things. We won't get that back into that right now, but
great strategy.
Also today, Southeastern Conference football coaches unanimously gave their support to keep walk-ons as part of football rosters. Now, part of this new settlement, if you haven't heard, will end, at least we believe, will end scholarship limitations, but may then kind of morph into roster caps. And there is some feeling, don't know yet, that football teams will be capped at that number 85. Now, they can all be on scholarship, but there might not be any more walk-ons because you still got to do a lot to pay for the walk-ons. You know, even though they're paying their own way in school, you're paying for them to train, et cetera, and that's part of the give and take. We all get that. Is there a meeting in the middle somewhere, Elijah? And by middle, I don't really mean 50-50, but do you cut the scholarships to 75 and then you can have 10 walk-ons? Do you say cut them to 75 and maybe raise the roster limit to 90 and have 15 walk-ons? I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not saying these things have been discussed at this point in time. There's not a coach in this country that wants to see his scholarship number reduced from the current 85 to anything low. They don't even want to take it down to 84. And I get it, but these may be some of those so-called difficult conversations that have to be had, but these guys all want to keep their walk-ons, which I understand. How feasible is it? And by the way, this is not binding.
Well, yeah.
Coaches don't have a binding vote on. I'm not dissing them. They just all they get to do is they go down there and meet and talk about rules. That's what Shane told us, like, hey, we talk about like rule changes, and that's where we can make a positive difference. He says,
yeah, truly,
is things like that. But in this, they can offer their support, but that's about it.
They can offer their support. And look, here's the thing: you can still have guys that practice against other people. Take women's basketball for instance. Every women's basketball team in the country has a group of guys they practice against, right? And then that's basically like your practice squad. They don't have spots on the roster, but there's still room for them to be able to participate in the sport that's going on. You're probably going to see a lot more of that with football players that are just practice type players. And look, if it's going to be either get more scholarships to be able to fill a roster with scholarship players and have more good players, or sacrifice it for the guys who are paying their way to be on the team, I know exactly which one SEC coaches are going to take if they're truth serumed.
Kirby Smart said of walk-ons, quote, "I don't know anybody that would be against having walk-ons. At what cost does that bring us? And I think it hurts high school football and football as a whole when kids can't even dream of the opportunity." I get it.
You still get the opportunity. No one's taken away opportunity.
No,
I mean, now if you get on the roster, you get a scholarship, which actually sounds cooler.
Yeah.
You'd be making that play on scholarship.
I mean, look, these are the kind of things that are, again, there's going to be the deep dive look into what it costs. where the benefits are. But if $20 million a year is going to be earmarked for, player stipends or whatever you want to call it, that $20 million's got to come from something.
Don't know how much you're getting from cutting walk-on spots, but they're going to look at it.
I mean,
That data will be readily available to them.
Because, again, you're going to be up in the baseball scholarships. I guarantee you. And other sports probably that have partials going to fulls. It'll be interesting. We'll see. But SEC coaches today unanimous in support of keeping walk-ons on their rosters. We'll see if their bosses agree with them in the coming months. That's our drive around the SEC, brought to you by Herndon Chevy, your hometown Chevy dealer. $20,000 off new Silverados. Check it out together. Let's drive. Let's see what Elijah has in store for me on the other side of the break. 11 minutes in front of 6 o'clock on this Tuesday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Cale Wilson's hanging out with us. More from Coach Kingston throughout the week. Gamecocks traveling tomorrow. They have a practice early, and then they hit the road up to Raleigh, get there tomorrow night. Friday afternoon, they get going. Angel Hernandez, by the way, not retiring from Major League Baseball to call games in college.
Which is good news for Gamecocks. Confirmed. He is done. He's done umpiring.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even realize it. He actually umpired his last game on May the 9th. And, like, these last couple of weeks, he's just been, like, planning the exit strategy.
Wow.
He hasn't done a World Series game in a long time. Hasn't done a playoff game in, like, 8 years.
I think he's only done one World Series.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, I don't know how, well.
I mean, the guy's been around, been doing this since 91, has only done one World Series.
Because he's not very good at his job.
Yeah.
In fact, he's really kind of bad at it.
It's like the Yankees post 9/11. Like they've only gotten back once. They won one. They're the Yankees.
Yeah. Oh,
08.
8.
Yeah. And they have all that money. Still can't go back. Angel Hernandez had all that experience, only has one World Series.
I don't think Angel Hernandez looked half the time at what he was calling or doing, man.
Talk about like zoning out on the job and guessing.
Yeah. I mean,
Sometimes it felt that way. It felt like he would just zone out and guess.
So, can't say he's going to be missed.
No, absolutely not. I would love to take a poll to see how many people miss Angel Hernandez.
Well, I don't know how many people know who he is, but, you know, for those.
I meant like players.
Yeah.
I meant, like, do you know The Athletic does those anonymous polls?
Yeah.
At the end of the season.
Let's see. So the number of players, can you have, is this a sense where you could have a negative number?
I think we can break the laws of mathematics for this one. Yeah.
Right.
I'd be willing to do that. There are no rules.
I put Elijah on the spot earlier. I didn't know if he had like something planned for me today or not.
No, but I did want to carve out some time to talk about Bill Walton.
Yeah.
Because that was a real bummer yesterday. That guy, not many people get a broadcasting career in which, after their playing days, which they're more known for their broadcasting career, not because they were a great color analyst.
Right.
Like most people, like I know a lot of people that were really annoyed at Bill Walton, called games. Not my type of people to watch a game with, because that guy was the best. That guy was the absolute best.
Yeah, and Dave Pasch, who was his play-by-play guy for many, many years, really, I think, learned how to incorporate that.
Yeah.
And Dave deserves a lot of kudos. My memories of Bill Walton are somewhat limited. You know, I remember, now listen, I was a little kid, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, yeah, I remember that Trailblazers run was fantastic. I was like 7. Maybe not even. But what I do remember, I mean, I knew who he was, right? I mean, it's hard not to know who the really tall, redheaded dude was. And as you get older, and the sports fan in me began to learn about what he had done at UCLA, and that, like, basically he was the center at UCLA after Lou Alcindor. Mm-hmm. And one of my best friend's dads is a huge NC State fan, grew up in North Carolina and got an engineering degree at NC State, but used to regale us with the stories of the 74 finals, right? And,
when they knocked him off.
You know, because David Thompson, you know, and if David Thompson hadn't turned to drugs in the NBA, we might talk about David Thompson like we talk about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was special, but they found a way to beat Bill Walton, who only lost 4 games in college.
88-game win streak.
But what I remember about Bill Walton is after however many knee surgeries and leaving Portland, he became such a tremendous role player for those amazing Boston Celtics teams. And, you know, that he was willing to accept that role when he had been a star. And again, I learned about some of this retroactively. It's kind of like, you know, since he was such a music guy, Elijah, it's kind of like I go back. You know, I was lucky. I got to listen, like when I started listening to Led Zeppelin, the whole catalog was out, right? You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't that way for me, you know, with like Van Halen or something like that. You know, Van Halen was still putting records out when I was starting to listen to Van Halen, but all of Zeppelin was out. Well, I'm making the analogy to say, like, you know, with Bill Walton, I had to go back, like, oh, it's all there for you to go look at UCLA, look at what he did with the Trailblazers. But, hey, here's this guy. And look at what he's willing to do in Boston. So not quite the same, but you see the point I'm making, like to reinvent himself. And And then I learned, as a big Grateful Dead fan, like what he was all about with the Grateful Dead. And
Over
as you
1,000 shows.
Yeah, well, and that's crazy. I mean, when people look at me like I have two heads, when I say I saw the Grateful Dead 14 times, they're like, was the first time not enough for you? And I'm like, no, not even close, man.
It's actually that's a low number for
14 is
rookie numbers.
Yeah. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? But he was great on television. I enjoyed Pac-12 After Dark and all those kind of things he did. And, the Conference of Champions. I won't try to do his voice. But, yeah, he was great for the sport.
The most authentic human being, right? Truly exemplified what it meant to, like, be you on air. And that was, sports aren't supposed to be that serious.
Right.
And when he was on, it was unserious, but it was fun.
Right. If you get a chance, go to Dan Patrick's YouTube page and watch today's interview with Jay Billis as two kids from California growing up. Like Jay talks about his reverence for Bill. It'll be worth your time. Good stuff today. Appreciate Derek, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.